Have you ever noticed how some people seem to possess an almost supernatural influence over the energy of any room they walk into? They don't yell. They don't beg. They don't even need to say a word. They simply pull back. And suddenly, everything shifts. The atmosphere changes. People begin to question, to chase, to feel something stirring inside them. Now, imagine if you could do the same. Imagine if, instead of reacting immediately to everything around you, you chose silence over explosion, withdrawal over confrontation. What would happen if you stopped giving instant access to your emotions, your reactions, your energy? Here's the secret. The very moment you become less available, emotionally, physically, even psychologically, the world around you starts to panic. Because most people are used to controlling you. They control you through your predictable reactions, your impulses, your constant availability. But the day you choose to withdraw, that's the day the entire game changes. Those who thought they knew you will realize they never truly understood you at all. Carl Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." Now think about that. When you become less reachable, who gets desperate? Who gets angry? Who tries to provoke you just to get a tiny spark of your attention? Their reactions reveal far more about them than about you. And most importantly, it exposes just how often you've been unknowingly manipulated. You see, all those times you said yes just to avoid conflict, all those times you reacted quickly to keep the peace, you were giving away tiny pieces of your energy. Piece by piece, until one day you're left with nothing but exhaustion, disappointment, and a hollow feeling you can't explain. Here's the truth no one tells you. You are being far too available for people who don't even deserve a single minute of your silence. This message is not about turning your back on the world. It's about finally choosing yourself. It's about learning what Jung called individuation, the process of becoming your authentic, whole self. And this journey begins when you realize that sometimes silence speaks louder than 1,000 arguments. Withdrawal, when it comes from awareness, not from fear, is not weakness. It's an incredible act of strength. So, let me look you in the eye and ask you, how much longer will you let others control your emotions? How much longer will you allow yourself to be a puppet, reacting every time someone pokes your old wounds? Maybe it's finally time to cut those strings, to become a mystery again. Because when you stop being constantly available, everything changes. You were taught to always be reachable, to always say yes, to answer immediately, even when you wanted to say no. Since childhood, you were conditioned to believe that your worth depended on how available you were to others. But here's a truth they never taught you. Being endlessly available is not a virtue, it's a prison. As long as you believe you must always be reachable, emotionally, mentally, physically, you will be manipulated, drained, and discarded the moment you are no longer useful. Why? Because constant availability makes you predictable, and anything predictable becomes a tool. People start using you like an emotional emergency button. Whenever they need comfort, validation, or attention, they push your button. And when they feel better, they put you right back on the shelf. And the saddest part? You don't even notice it. Because you've been living under the illusion that if you are always there for others, someday someone will finally be there for you. But that's not how it works. Carl Jung spoke about the persona, the mask we wear to gain acceptance and approval. And it's this very mask that turns you into someone who's always available. Even when you're drowning inside, you still smile and say, "It's okay." Even when you're exhausted, you reply instantly to messages. You explain yourself, defend yourself, justify yourself, as if you owe the world an explanation for simply existing. But here's the harsh reality. The more you make yourself the centerpiece of other people's stages, the further you drift from yourself. Being always available is a silent form of self-abandonment. It's the hidden way we seek approval and desperately avoid rejection. It's how we try to control the image others have of us. But this control comes at a devastating cost: your peace, your energy, your soul. People who demand your constant availability don't really want you. They want what you provide: validation, distraction, emotional relief. But the moment you change, the moment you set boundaries, the moment you refuse to react on command, those same people will call you selfish, cold, even strange. Not because you are wrong, but because you have stopped being useful to them. And here's the brutal truth. The more available you are, the less people value you. Because anything too easily available loses its value. It becomes disposable, taken for granted. Nobody treasures what they didn't have to work for. Nobody respects what is always there. So pause for a moment and ask yourself, who truly deserves your time? Who truly deserves your attention? Who truly deserves your presence, or even better, your absence? But before you answer, you must understand the root cause. Why do we react so easily? Why do we give in so quickly? The answer lies in what Carl Jung called psychic energy. Jung didn't see the human mind as a machine reacting aimlessly to every stimulus. He saw it as an intricate energy system. Every thought, every emotion, every action consumes a portion of that precious energy. So here's the critical question. Are you choosing where your energy flows, or are you letting the world decide for you? Every time you react impulsively, every time you defend yourself against unworthy criticism, every time you respond to a provocation that doesn't deserve your attention, every time you argue just to prove you're right, every time you try to please people who do not truly care for you, you waste your psychic energy. You pour your inner power into things that do not nourish you. Jung said, "What you resist persists." The more you react, the deeper you get entangled. Emotionally exhausted people are not weak. They are simply misdirected. They are drained. And do you know what happens to a drained soul? It becomes vulnerable. It becomes easy prey for manipulators, for emotional predators, for anyone seeking to exploit. People can sense it. They can sense when you don't know how to protect your energy. They can sense when you react to everything. They can sense when you are desperate to fix the world, and they exploit it. Jung taught that a healthy soul knows how to contain its energy. It knows how to say no without guilt, how to stay silent without fear, how to observe without rushing into action. True power lies not in endless reactions, but in choosing your response with awareness. And that level of mastery only comes when you know yourself deeply enough to recognize your own impulses before they control you. How many sleepless nights have you endured, replaying a painful conversation in your mind? How many hours have you wasted overthinking what you should have said? How many times have you tortured yourself, trying to figure out why someone treated you badly? Now, maybe it's finally time to stop, to choose yourself, to protect your sacred energy, to become the mystery you were always meant to be. When you keep reacting to everything, you unknowingly feed situations that should have ended long ago. You keep breathing life into ghosts that would have faded away if only you had stopped giving them your attention. Every time you react, you pour your energy into dead dynamics that exist only because you allow them to. When your psychic energy is well protected, it becomes like a magnetic force field. You walk into a room, and without even saying a word, people feel your presence and respect you. But when your energy is poorly managed, you become invisible, fragile, and reactive. And the world It's not kind to those who break too easily. That's why it's crucial to start observing your triggers. What makes you lose your center? What makes you react without thinking? These are the exact places where your energy leaks out. And working on them isn't about becoming cold or uncaring. It's about mastering yourself. It's about learning to be selective, not available for everything and everyone. Here comes one of Jung's most powerful insights. When you protect your energy, you break the projections others place on you. And this unsettles them deeply, because now you're stepping into the hidden world of silent manipulation. You think you are in control. You believe your reactions are choices you make. But the darker truth is, most of your reactions are programmed, and those who recognize this can manipulate you without shouting or forcing anything. They simply know where to press, and you, almost on autopilot, react exactly the way they expect. Carl Jung called this projection. People throw onto you what they cannot face in themselves, but there's something even more subtle happening. While they project onto you, you also receive these projections. And the more emotionally available you are, the more you become an empty canvas for their illusions. Think about it. The friend who only calls when they're in crisis. The partner who needs you to fix everything. The boss who praises you only when it benefits them. None of it is coincidence. It's not about who you are. It's about the role you silently agreed to play. And why do you accept it? Because deep down, you're afraid. Afraid of disappointing them, of being unloved, of being abandoned. The most dangerous manipulation doesn't come through shouting. It happens quietly, through guilt. It's when you believe you must help, you must be there, even when it's slowly destroying you inside. Manipulators don't need to force you. They just need you to keep reacting the same way you always have. But the moment you stop reacting, the entire structure falls apart. When you say no, when you respond with silence, when you refuse to explain yourself, you shatter the illusions they have built around you. And this terrifies people, because without your predictable reactions, they no longer know who they are looking at. And worse, they are forced to look at themselves. And not everyone is ready for that. Your unavailability becomes a threat. Your silence forces others to hear their own noise. And then comes the attack. Criticism, drama, emotional games, not because you are wrong, but because you stopped playing your old role. Jung said, "We do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." When you stop feeding toxic cycles, the hidden darkness in others surfaces. And for those who used you as their emotional escape, this is unbearable. Are you ready for this? Are you ready to be misunderstood, rejected, even attacked? All because you chose to protect your soul, because after the separation comes the silence. And it's in that silence that a new kind of strength is born.